Hi, Andrea. Hi, James. How are you both?
Hi, Mark. Hi, James.
Thank you so much for giving some time to join us on the podcast. And today we are talking about an interesting topic, actually, because we talk a lot about investing in rental properties or commercial properties and developments. And we're talking about how to use property as a vehicle to generate income. We don't talk much about, I guess, is where does your own home fit into all of this? And I get asked that question a lot. Specific scenarios. What should I do about my home? How important is it that I do own a home from a lending perspective? And how should my own home fit into my whole property investment plans? And I'm just conscious there's a lot of differing advice, both historically and I think still at the moment, about how your home should fit into all of that. What are your thoughts, Andrea, on that initially, and how has your own home fitted into your property journey so far?
Well, obviously, I mean, when I first started out, I had a couple of properties, and before I started actually the training, I sold my rental property to pay off my mortgage. So
Okay.
it was like, and then I came on the training and thought, oh, that
I've
wasn't
done
my
that
best.
slightly backwards.
Yeah, I thought I could have refinanced that. And anyway, you live and learn. So this was like the year after. So I paid off a mortgage. But I lived in quite a big house, really, and it was too big. So I decided that I'd sell that and downsize. So I used my money. So I got a smaller house and used the excess money to invest, which
Okay.
helped really because it sped up the process. Yeah, I think you have to do what you have to do. It depends where you want to get to and how you're going to fund it. And I was just having the conversation with my other half this morning. If you want to borrow an excess amount of money from bridging, let's say, to buy something, and it's going to be 10%, but you can raise the money from your own property at 4%, then why would you do it any other way?
Yeah, which is a different mindset, isn't it? There's, to a certain extent, it's generational, but there's a school of thought that you should pay your mortgage off, on your own home. And I know if I look at my own parents, for example, they've worked for whatever it is, 40, 50 years with the sole goal to be paying the mortgage off, with the expectation that at that point, retirement, life opens up, they don't have that burden of a mortgage and they feel they've got that asset 100% in their ownership. So, but you haven't done that. I know we have taken a slightly different, but again, it is education's the key, isn't it? Because I would certainly have had that mindset and that goal and aspiration prior to increasing my financial IQ, I would argue, and learning about property investment. And we certainly kickstarted our property journey by doing exactly what you said as well. So we didn't sell, but we released, we refinanced essentially. So we borrowed money against our residential property, increased our mortgage, which to some people listening to this might seem totally counterintuitive, but we increased our mortgage to about as much as we possibly could because of exactly what you said. It's cheap money at the end of the day. You're probably not going to get lending cheaper than that anywhere else, are you?
No, absolutely not. So you've done the same, haven't you, James?
Yeah,
I would, encourage a similar approach. Really, I mean, I bought my first property whilst I was at university. It was the final year I was at university, and I had a part-time job, and I clubbed in with my brother, and we bought a flat in '96, which is a great time to buy. 60 grand flat in Hemel Hempstead.
Wow.
And which is fun, and we lived there for kind of 6 years, and that very quickly doubled in price. I think after 3 or 4 years, because of the way the market was at that time, it doubled in price. And then I guess just looking at the maths of it, I thought, this is fantastic. This is free money. I need more of these little boxes. And that's when I went shopping in Corby and bought my sort of first buy to let. But I had no qualms about using that equity in the house, pulling it out, making it work as hard as possible for myself. I think I've got a basic mindset that your own home isn't an investment. You're consuming your own home. It's you know, I'm currently renting because I've moved out on my last property and turned that into HMO. And, you know, I've got the mindset that, you know, your mortgage on your own home is a cost really, because it doesn't generate you any income. So
and a lot of us have read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? And for some of us, that was the first time at which that realization kind of dawned, really, isn't it? That your own home is actually a liability rather than an asset. It costs you money to have your home every month, and so that's where this all sort of knits together, isn't it? Because the goal of investing in property to create a recurring income stream is to meet your financial security figure. So providing the investments that you're making with funds you may have released from your own home are generating more than enough income to cover the lending costs, then you're quids in, aren't you? Then you're up on the deal, as it were. And that's kind of the principle behind it.
And that's the basic point, isn't it? In terms of risk, you know, people perceive it as being risky, perhaps, but you know, if you do anything badly, it's risky. But you know, if you do it correctly, you're mitigating that risk, and you're making sure that, you know, that your risks are covered. So that is the key to it, to execute your investments, you know, in a proper way.
Yeah, doing all your due diligence. But you look at people, and I see people all the time. They'll say, "Yeah, you know, I'm taking some money out of the house. I've got, you know, I've got some capital. We're going to buy a car. We're going to go on holiday. We're going to put a new kitchen in." And you know, that is entirely up to them. It's their money. It's their life. But you kind of think, if you did it, you know, like everyone that's on here now, you know, they've come through the training and we've learned a different way. If you do it by an investment, that can pay for all the other stuff anyway. So it's kind of looking at it like the Rich Dad, the quadrant. It just shows you how to manage that better. So people are happy to take money out of the property for doodads, for want of a better word, you know, for crap, really. Well, not crap, but it is for stuff. Whereas taking it out to invest it and bring that money back in, that's going to pay your mortgage and give you a better lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I don't see why you wouldn't. But on the flip side of that, I suppose it depends how risk averse you are. If that's the one thing that you want to keep stable and safe, and you just don't want to touch that, again, that's fine.
Yeah, and I guess you mentioned it right at the beginning, Andrew, as well. It depends on where you're at in the process and what your goals are at that time, because that changes, right? And so initially, making your assets work as hard as you possibly can to generate that income, to get that income stream coming in, is the priority. I'm not ruling out for a second that at some point further down the line, I may want to pay off my mortgage from my residential house. You know, it's not a priority for me right now. I'm quite happy that is covered through the income that we've got generated through the investments we've made. But it just depends, doesn't it, on what your goal income is. But that may well change. You may well have achieved your income goals and want to start increasing your equity stakes again, and increasing your asset base. So it really depends on what your goals are, doesn't it? I think, as much as anything.
If your intention is to give up work and your intention is to have a better lifestyle, and this is an option for cheap money, then it really is a no-brainer.
I think that life cycle point, or life, is a really great one, because my long-term goal is actually to do just that, because from a tax perspective, you know, if I can reduce my personal outgoings, actually the income I need every year reduces dramatically, and then I'm in a lower tax bracket. So, you know, the cash flow coming off my businesses, I can manage that more effectively, because my personal cost of living, if you like, is minimized by not having that mortgage payment, that interest payment. So you're 100% agree with that. Over my kind of property investing life cycle, actually one of my core goals at the end will be to get my personal costs down as much as possible, just to magnify the benefit of the cash flow, the tax-free cash flow from my property property businesses. I think it's a mindset thing, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah.
You know, we're almost in a mindset bubble where, you know, it's often, you know, when you talk to people that you're trying to help, you know, you're trying to bring along with you, you can see, you know, the fear in their eyes that they're just not computing, they're not getting it. And it's kind of that mindset education, that money education, you know, because, you know, what is a greater legacy? You know, a large property portfolio worth X millions, or generating a great cash flow income, or, you know, a single residential property with no mortgage on.
But it is quite scary, and I remember it being a big decision, and although the logic became clear to me very clearly, you know, once I'd got myself educated in finance and property. But it was still a big step, because Caroline talks a lot, doesn't she, about the 99% versus the 1%, and you are really battling still a very ingrained, very institutional belief about your own home and how important it is that you ultimately own that. And there will be people that will be surrounded by a lot of, not negativity, because it's coming from a caring place, but they'll be surrounded by people who are saying, oh, you know, are you sure about that? You know, you should be trying to pay your mortgage off, and you should be trying to do it like this, you know, and trying to give well-intentioned advice. So it is a brave step to sort of break out from that, isn't it? Did you guys face any of that when you started out investing?
I don't think I did quite as much, because before I did my training, which was a big step, and it kind of changed my thought process and mindset on investments. I'd already had my own business for quite a long time, so I'd already had all the people saying, do you think you should be opening another shop at this time? And I won't do property, you'll have tenants all wreck your house. So I'd already had all that. So I think they'd kind of given up on me, because I clearly weren't listening. So I think the only thing I didn't say is, obviously, when I did the training, and everybody was, and I said I paid a significant amount for my training, which obviously I've had back dozens and hundreds of times. That bit I never told anybody, because I think people might have thought I was insane.
But similar to Andrew, my biggest step actually was doing, you know, handing over the money for the training, because I'm like, I can work this out, you know. Actually, I can't work this out, because I've spent 10 years trying to work this out, and I'm in a bit of a hole. So it was that, you know, my kind of I know better. I'm too stubborn. That was
stubborn. It's stubborn.
Asking for help is what I struggle with, I think.
Yeah.
And I do know people, you guys will know people as well who, and James, you've kind of done a version of this, I guess, who actually use their home in an even more strategic way, in terms of not actually releasing money from it, but actually we call it a PPR strategy, so principal prime residence strategy. So, which in a nutshell is kind of, I guess you'd have to be in a certain stage of your life. You'd have to be in a certain stage with your family, because you'd have to tolerate some movement and some upheaval, but the principle being the same, which is that you potentially move into somewhere that needs some work, and you live there. You use that as your principal prime residence. You upgrade the property, and at a chosen time, you can then sell, move on, and repeat that process effectively.
I've done that a couple of times, and, you know, the house, my primary residence, which I just moved out of, I have converted into a 7-bed HMO, so that's generating fantastic cash flow. But I bought that back in 2009, just after the crash, and it was derelict. It really was a hole. Actually, we didn't have any hot water, and we managed to survive without any hot water for quite a long time, just using immersion in one room. But so when we moved into that property, rather than fix that property, I just bought another buy to let with the equity I managed to generate out of that deal, because I bought it for such a great price at that time, because, you know, mortgages were like hen's teeth at the time. So I bought another buy to let, which had a title split option with it, and then I built another house on the plot of land I separated. Meanwhile, I'm living in absolute squalor, you know. and it's leaking. There's no hot water. There's no carpets. There's nothing. So.
Do you know what? I'd like to say that it was part of some kind of grand plan strategy, but my wife and I talk about this a lot, that, we're doing up these beautiful service departments and hotels to a really high standard. And meanwhile, our own home is sort of falling to rack and ruin while all the nice furniture and everything we buy goes into all the properties that ultimately we never get to stay in. But that's
the shoes, isn't it?
Yeah. Looking at this from a slightly different perspective then, particularly for people who may be just starting out in property, how important is owning your own home from a lending perspective? Because obviously that's a factor we need to consider, isn't it, for getting mortgages?
It is reasonably, it's a great position to be in if you've got your own house. It's not to say that you won't get lending, because there are lenders. But it does make life a bit, well, for instance, my son bought his first property. He didn't own a house at that point. He bought his first buy-to-let. So if he angeled the money, taught him well, angeled the money, bought the house for cash, and all the money, he angeled all the money to buy it for cash and to renovate it. Refinanced it 6 months later. Meanwhile, the lenders saw that he owned this house. It was rented out. So that was then made him more eligible for lending. So there's other ways of doing it. Having your own property does make it easier, but it's not necessarily.
There are ways around it.
I think that's the key to property, isn't it? Really, the more experience you gain over the years, the more options that open up to you. But it's just about taking those incremental steps to work through.
You can also get, under certain circumstances, you can get a mortgage host as well. I think that might be another way you could look. If you didn't own your own home when you're starting out, you can actually have somebody who would meet, I guess, credit checks and affordability checks to host your mortgage, in effect. So there are options, is what we're saying. But I think the conclusion to this conversation really is to change your mindset towards your own home and think of it slightly more strategically. Whether or not you go to the full extent of actually that becoming a strategy, where you're going to move, and you're going to refurb and move and sell and realize the capital uplift every time, or whether or not you just look at your home as a resource that can potentially sort of kickstart or fuel your investment journey, certainly in the early stages. It's probably that mindset change that's the most important thing, isn't it?
I think it's best to have a plan, isn't it? So if you know that you want to get £5,000-10,000 a month, and in order to do that, you've got a little bit of money or no money, but you've got this residence that's got equity, it's kind of knowing what you're going to do with it and how you're going to pull it out, put it back, or whatever you do, or recycle it, reuse it. But know that if in 10 years' time, all these properties will be worth 30, 40, 50% more than they're worth now, or they've doubled, whatever they've done. You can always refinance those at a later stage and pay your mortgage off then. So you can look at it a different way, because rents will have gone up. So it's about having that plan, or you sell a couple off, pay the mortgages off. There's put a plan in place.
Yeah, I mean, with the right plan, your own home is a time machine, basically, isn't it? Because it's the cheapest and easiest money you'll ever get, and you can choose to not use it, but there's a cost to that. So if you want to execute your plan in the fastest possible way, it's a fantastic option.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Well, hopefully that's created a bit of perspective for people listening to this. And if you're not already well on the way with this, then a slight mindset shift potentially in how you view your own home in relation to your property investment goals. So thank you so much, James. Thank you, Andrea, for your time on that. Meet you both soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.